Matt Powell is a bit of a plonker. And yes, I'm using British insults today because there may well be a few, and the algorithm doesn't think they're actually that bad. So in this video, we're going to see why Matt Powell Official-ly is a Burke, and why he thinks there's obvious evidence of a god, amongst a few other things. Hello, I'm the Skeptic, the British floating circle that watches people make extraordinary claims, and then I explain why I don't accept what they're saying, in the hope that some folks who also don't believe get some reassurance that they're not alone in their non-belief. He's been featured on this channel a couple of times, and the biggest video about Matt on the Skeptic is this one, where Matt hates fun-loving atheists, folks who love video games and whatnot, and he tells them to
grow up.
Okay, Matt. Well, now, he's back with what he thinks is the funniest video on the internet, so stick around to see the cringiest young earth creationist make you cry with laughter, or maybe just cry at how bad it is. However, before all that, if this isn't your first Skeptic video, hit the like, the subscribe, and the bell to get more atheist content like this in your feed. And a super thanks to those that hit super thanks in some recent videos. Diana Rising, Tari Sharif, John Gavin, Well Reasoned, and Robert L. Lisa the Rainbow Giraffe bestows leaves upon you all. More hen. Get ready to be blown away. Some people can't believe this happened.
Some people think that there is no evidence for God. And this is false. There is evidence for God. And we know that to be the case, and I'm going to show you why.
Show why? Wouldn't it just be best to show the evidence, not show why there's evidence? I mean, it doesn't matter that there isn't any evidence that satisfies the criteria of being actual evidence for any god. Otherwise, you know, it would be obvious that there was a god, and you wouldn't need to make an argument for the supposed evidence.
Because time, space, and matter exists. Time, space, and matter either A, popped into existence uncaused from nothing via a magic act, or it was created.
You mean created by a magic act, surely. And no, that's not the only options, Matthew, you twonk. What if, and here's a crazy idea, the cosmos is also as infinite as the God you say but cannot demonstrate exists? And don't be coming back here with, well, we can see the moment that the universe comes into existence. Of course, there's a point that scientists say our universe began, but that's just all we can see. Don't start using science when you want it to be relevant and then dismiss it when it goes against what you believe. Why does your God get to have always existed, but not space?
Either somebody created something out of nothing, or nobody created something out of nothing.
Or there never was nothing. Why aren't you listing that, Matt, you bloody Wally?
Either the universe created itself, or somebody created the universe.
Or a tiny point which got ridiculously hot due to all the pressure and condensed energy and whatever, popped, and all that energy inside was forced outwards, and with that sudden increase in energy, protons and neutrons formed and particles began to stick together or something. No god or creator needed there.
And saying that the universe could create itself, or that time, space, and nature could come into existence on its own with no cause outside of it, that is a literal magic act.
But it's not magic that an undemonstrated being can make it all happen. Do you ever just listen to the words you say and realise that you're saying the exact same thing and adding in a specific magician to make it happen? That's fine, but you need to demonstrate the magician.
Atheism is based on magic.
Hello, this is Matt Powell, the Kettle. I have some news for my good friend Pot.
It is based on mysticism and sorcery. It's a false religion. It's literally the belief that the universe could have created itself from nothing with no cause associated with it, with no God.
Yeah, that's not a religion. That's just taking an understanding offered by natural and demonstrable means to reach a pretty reliable conclusion. And if you're saying that it's wrong because you need to have faith, aren't you just admitting that using faith to get anywhere isn't reliable? You're basically saying that faith is untrustworthy, and thus your claims of a God aren't trustworthy because you're using an untrustworthy thing to reach the conclusion. The trouble is, with science, you don't use faith. You use repeatable, observable, demonstrable methods to reach conclusions. Faith is just feelings, you spanner.
Okay, you have to understand, when you're dealing with an atheist, you are literally dealing with someone who, whether they know it or not, believes in magic.
I don't believe in magic. I believe that given what is demonstrable and repeatable with natural means, if I was to take a bowling ball and drop it on your foot, it will bloody hurt. No magic there, Matty boy.
Believes that poof, out of nothing, everything was produced by nothing.
If that's what you think atheists do, then okay. But you believe that a god that isn't real poofed everything into existence out of nothing. Most folks don't believe there was Nothing. Sorry to burst your bubble.
This is why creation science is so powerful, and this is why evolution is so false, because of the fundamentals of thermodynamics, the fundamentals of biology, the fundamentals of science itself.
Are we really going to believe that Matt Powell understands the fundamentals of all that? Sure. Pull the other one, it's got bells on.
Science demonstrates the existence of God. And anybody who believes that there is no God or they lack belief in God...
Why did he air quote that? I love it when they do that. Like this, Matt Powell believes in a God. I'm not sure what that's going to achieve, but whatever.
They have bought into a lie, and they have bought into superstition.
Yeah, I don't know how many times we need to say it, but there are no supernatural forces in the explanation of the origin of the universe, so I don't think it counts as a superstition.
God created the heaven and the earth. In the beginning, God. Not in the beginning, dirt, or an explosion from an infinitely dense hot point.
That's just what a book says. There's still absolutely no reason to accept this book as the word of a god, though.
And explosions don't construct buildings. Explosions, by definition, destroy. They're known as destructive forces.
It's so weird how they make these weird analogies. An explosion destroys buildings, so the universe couldn't have rapidly expanded. High roll. I have an issue with this verse. How could a person have known that this happened? There were no folks around then, so either the god wrote it but with no one around to witness it, so we really just have to take the word of the being, or a human was inspired by a god to write it, but then how can you tell the difference between someone being inspired and someone just thinking they're inspired? It's all a load of rubbish if you ask me. Well, that was a short video, so let's really get our money's worth, I guess. But that means getting some more Matty. I'm so sorry. But do hang around so you can see Matt being the funniest person on YouTube. Totally not cringeworthy.
This scientific paper says here that you can see, it says life and rocks may have co-evolved on Earth. And it goes on to say that rocks beget life. Right there.
Tell me you didn't read a paper without telling me you didn't read a paper. Do you think Matt Powell just lost the plot and decided to Google a few phrases and use the first thing he found? Nothing in the article suggests that rocks begat life. It's clearly just one person's way of phrasing it. It isn't actually to be taken literally. It's not like the Bible where theists do take things literally.
So when people get online and they say nobody believes that life descended from rocks, it shows that this guy hasn't done the most basic of research, you know? He needs to definitely go look at some scientific articles and papers.
Or just Google a phrase and highlight it to try and prove a point.
And instead resort to your typical misrepresentations of science, like claiming I think life came from a rock, no matter how many times I explain to you that those are stupid things to say.
I love how he admits that it's a stupid thing to say, that life descended from a rock. They're admitting that if somebody actually believes that it's a crazy belief system. And here's the thing, they actually believe that, whether they realize it or not. And I'm actually going to show you the scientific papers. We'll just go through just a few of them and show you that this is what they believe. They may not understand the fundamentals of their faith.
My word, he really is balmy. To think that folks who accept evolution do so on faith. He's also making faith less reliable for himself. But he's saying the faith used to conclude that life came from rocks is wrong, but his faith is right. How can faith both be wrong and right, Matty? How can you tell the difference between your faith being right and the other faith being wrong?
But it is something that they do believe, is that life descended from rocks.
No, I don't believe that at all. I don't believe we came from rocks.
And yet you have mineralogists and geologists and different scientists getting together and telling us that rocks beget life. So it's a bold-faced lie for these atheist YouTubers out there to get online and say, well, nobody believes that life came from a rock. That's a creationist straw man. You know, and they'll accuse us of lying. Well, they themselves are lying just by saying that, because it is basic knowledge on the origin of life research.
It's okay, knobhead. If it makes you feel better to say that folks are lying, to save yourself from actually having to do some work and get an actual understanding of what's going on, then fine. When a rock erodes, minerals get released. These minerals weren't rocks, but they likely did have a big part to play in the formation of the first components of life or whatever.
Here's another paper, Genesis, Rocks, Minerals, and the Geochemical Origin of Life. So again, this is a paper on the origin of life. You can see it right there. If you read on in this paper, it says researchers on the origin of life now conclude that rocks and minerals must have played key roles in virtually every phase of life's emergence.
That still isn't saying that life came from rocks. It just says that they had a key role. Twisting it to work really doesn't suit you, Matthew.
The theory is that rocks were rained on and minerals were eroded from those rocks, and then we came into existence based on those minerals getting eroded and rearranging themselves into elements that would make it so that life could come into existence.
Oh, so close. The rearranging themselves part ruined it, Matt. We all know that you're trying to make it sound as though two rocks started humping each other and gave birth to a non-rock. That's just not it.
That is the fundamental of their faith. It's the fundamental of the origin of life from an atheistic perspective.
It baffles me why they don't just ask. Atheists just aren't convinced of a God. How non-believers conclude how life came about could vary massively from person to person. It really does make him look like a real dummy.
And the fact that they admit that it is so stupid to believe that life came from rock, nobody believes that. To me, they're admitting that their own belief system is crazy.
What is crazy is that you make crap up like this to make yourself seem smart.
So this is what they are saying. I mean, you've got another paper that is titled, "You Owe Your Life to Rock." So it says here that erosion of metal-rich granite long ago set the stage for multicellular organisms.
And if only that's how you presented it, you silly git. It even says, right there, and you said it from your own mouth, erosion. Like how trees produce oxygen through a process, but no one says they're taking in a big gulp of tree to help them breathe.
How interesting. I love the way that this one starts out. Starts out by saying, thank goodness for granite.
You do know how writing works, right? Catchy things like that are also linked to the title keep people engaged. Why are you taking everything so literally?
Bruh.
These scientists are saying, don't thank God for life. Thank your granite grandfather rock.
That's not actually what they're saying, though, is it, Matt? I'm not sure if this is you trying to be funny or what, but given what we're about to see, it really isn't your strong suit.
Because if it wasn't for him, this unconscious rock that was rained on and had minerals come out of it, then we wouldn't have even come into existence. We wouldn't have even been conceived.
So close. So close.
Yeah, it's just so interesting to me that that's how this paper starts out. Thank goodness for granite. I mean, it just makes you laugh when you look at this, because it's mind-blowing that anyone could possibly buy into it.
You've got it right there. Why don't you just bloody well read it instead of picking one or two sentences that you think justify your position? This isn't the Bible.
You know, and atheists go on and on about how that it's superstitious to believe in the devil and to believe in Satan, while they simultaneously buy into the biggest lies that only Satan could give them.
Scoffing doesn't make Satan magically exist.
The fact that they could be so deceived and so manipulated and so tricked into believing something so ridiculous is proof of Satan's existence.
The fact that you can be tricked into believing an undemonstrated magic man poofed life into existence is proof that you're gullible. Now what?
But anyways,
I think that if they believe they came from a rock, they're not following science. Science is what we can observe and know. What do we know? It comes from the Latin word seer.
No, and once again, see right there, evolution does not say that we came from a rock.
Bruh.
he's just parroting what he's heard from all of the other atheist YouTubers.
Aren't you just parroting what you've heard from your ex-bestie Kent of Hovind?
This guy has obviously never researched it himself, because if he did, he would realize that the fundamental of the origin of life involves rock being rained on. That the fundamental of their faith is that rocks were what brought life into existence, the minerals that were contained therein.
I stand by my tree analogy even more.
This is their side that they don't even understand. It's absolutely mind-blowing.
What's mind-blowing is that you clearly haven't read any of the articles. You just searched keywords and cherry-picked to try and make a stupid point seem credible. What a wazzock.
Why do you keep saying evolution is, we claim that we came from rock? It's not what the majority of people that believe in evolution, it's not what they believe at all. It's not what they say.
It absolutely is what they say.
It absolutely isn't. Done. Though now I just see Matt saying it is and others replying isn't until someone gets bored.
It absolutely is what they say.
Isn't.
It absolutely is what they say.
Isn't.
It absolutely is what they say.
Isn't. Okay, whatever.
I mean, have you ever looked at a scientific journal on the origin of life? Have you ever looked at a scientific paper on the origin of the first single-celled organisms?
Have you? Because looking at and actually reading are two very different things.
If they're going to be wrong about something as simple as the origin of life from an atheistic perspective, if they're going to be wrong about basic biology, what makes you think that they're going to be correct about, say, advanced genetics or advanced biology, for example? They're going to be wrong on almost everything.
How can we trust scientists who say that minerals from erosion contributed to the first forms of life? What I'm getting from this chuffer is he believes in a god, so that means he can't be wrong about anything. One of the most arrogant things I think I've ever heard. Just because you don't accept it, it doesn't mean it's wrong. Could it just be that you don't understand and you're scared to, maybe? Because it means that if you do, the god you believe in is suddenly redundant.
The materials that eventually formed this organic matter that formed into what we consider life came from the water hitting the rock and the surface of the earth.
Nobody believes we came from a rock, yet the materials that eventually formed into life came from the rock being hit by water on the surface of the earth. The fact that they're embarrassed that they believe that life descended from rocks should tell us that we should boldly defend our faith and stand up for Jesus and what we believe in.
That's a massive leap. It's so dishonest to keep misrepresenting what's being said to try and make something look silly, which just makes you look like a bit of a twit.
You know, they will mock the virgin birth, yet they believe that a rock conceived. They think it's crazy that Mary conceived, but they think that rocks, which were non-living altogether, somehow were rained on, eroded, and formed themselves into multicellular life.
Wait, you just said conceived, but then quickly backtracked and then misrepresented. Again! How anyone can take you seriously is beyond me. Well, I mean, maybe they don't.
What a joke, you know? What a joke.
What I've noticed about Matt Powell in particular, because I've made more videos about Matt than I have about Ken, is that whenever Matt says something and I think, right, that's clearly a load of crap, so let me find out exactly what it should be. Whenever he says anything, I can almost always only find any reference to that thing he cited on a creationist science website.
Wow!
Every single scientific paper that I'm citing, whether it's in a debate or in a seminar, most of the time it is a secular journal. Most of the time it is the Origin of Life research team, right? That they're taking it from a perspective that's without God. This has nothing to do with creation science.
And then, most of the time, you just pick a couple of words, take things wildly out of context, and don't understand what's being said, and then use that to try and make a position look ridiculous. I'm with Cricky, Aaron, and Davia. You're just being dishonest.
Smithsonian magazine that talks about rocks begetting life. Yeah, that is a secular magazine. These are secular sources. These have nothing to do with Christianity.
I'll read the paper. But I'm asking you right now, how does a rock conceive?
You tell me. I don't believe that it did. I find it intriguing how some of these guys that have a very big following, they will just make these blanket statements. Nobody believes we came from a rock. Nobody believes that, Matt. When you can just easily look it up.
They want to make believe this alternative reality.
It's like with Matt Powell, I am convinced that he knows that he's speaking nonsense.
You mentioned he's been corrected by so many different people. When has he ever said, okay, well, I was wrong about that?
No, he doesn't do that.
Change his position. Right, he doesn't.
Yeah.
He'll
Same
be corrected
sentence.
about the same thing over and over and over again and keep repeating what he knows to be wrong.
What a And so, for the real reason we're here, you and I, Matt Powell thinking he's funny, but actually being gormless and cringe. You are welcome. This is called This Will Make You Laugh. And if you're like me, well, you really, really won't.
Hey, would you happen to know where the bathroom is, dude?
No.
Who's that?
Roasty, I thought you got kidnapped. Me too. Oh, I want to play.
I know you. I know you. I know you. What year is it?
What year is it? Somebody help me.
2022.
Where's the bathroom? Can somebody help me?
So it turns out that even 46 seconds of that is too much. So if Matt Powell is trying all this to be funny, he's doing an absolute terrible job of it. I don't know, this channel is pointing out silly things that people believe and not here to insult, but when it comes to this pleb, anything goes. Do you think he's trying to be funny? And really does understand what's being said when it comes to rocks and erosion? Or is he really just misrepresenting to make it all seem silly? Let me know in the section below. I'm going to skeptic this as nothing remotely funny. A big thank you to this month's top level ticks on Patreon: Addy Rockart, the Enixes, Elizabeth, Jukari, Whiskey Tech Fred, and the Absolute Lunatic Travis, as well as all the $3 base ticks. You can become a supporter on Patreon too at patreon.com/theskeptic. The link is in the description, along with links to all my other socials. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. From me, the Skeptic, stay safe, keep thinking logically, and ask questions. Skepticism is the first step towards truth. See you next Saturday.